Welcome to the show, Peter Moore, CEO, Liverpool Football Club. First, Peter, congratulations. As a lifelong supporter, how do you feel?
Well, thank you, Charlie. It's been a long time coming, 30 years since the last Premier League title, and I'm old enough to remember when winning the Premier League, or actually winning the league, was pretty routine. So we never would have thought there would have been a 30-year drought, but it's actually been 2 phenomenal years when you think about the performance of the team on the pitch last year and where we currently are with still a handful of games to go. So Jurgen and the team has done a phenomenal job. The city is absolutely delighted, and our global fan base, particularly over there in the United States, are over the moon. So we're kind of on cloud nine right now. So, but still some work to do.
I feel that as a lifelong Liverpool fan, as you are, I did want to ask you this one question. When we were all young men, I'll say that, okay? And Sir Alex Ferguson said, it's going to be my job to knock Liverpool off its perch. Were you one of the people? I think we all were. We're like, yeah, sure, that'll happen. Did you ever think it would be this long?
Yeah, I mean, Sir Alex, who's become a good friend of mine, and we joke about it. He will always tell me he wishes he never said that because, that pops up all the time. The last time I saw him was a couple of months ago, and he says, to his credit, he regrets saying it. But, I think from our perspective, being on a perch, we're a bird, is where we belong. What Sir Alex meant in those days was we were, perennial champions. We were European champions, I think, at the time. And so he did and did what he said he was going to do, which was take some of the oxygen away from us and bring it up the M62 motorway, the East Lancs Road, as we would call it, and bring it to them. But, I watched them last night against Brighton. They looked pretty handy. So battles are yet to come, Charlie.
When you became CEO in February 2017, Liverpool had won only one trophy since 2006, the League Cup in 2012, which Kenny Dalglish came back as manager to win. Jurgen Klopp had joined at the end of 2015. You got League Cup final, you lost, and then the Europa League. You come 8th that season. And now you were battling for 4th, and you weren't going to win anything in this season. So clearly, the hierarchy at Liverpool thought something was going right to keep backing him with the investment and the belief that he could go on. There was a lot of media talk. Oh, his record's no better than Brendan Rodgers. Why Liverpool so behind him? What was going right in that period?
One of the things we look at when we look at Jurgen now, it's easy, Neil, in hindsight, but you compare him to previous Liverpool managers. And you're right, at the first year, and even before I joined Liverpool, I happened to meet Jurgen the first day he was on the job. I was at EA at that time and brought over to London by E&M, my predecessor, to host a partner summit, and I was kind of the MC. And I remember we played Spurs the next day, and I was at that game in the away end, and it was a tough game. And I think about that team on the pitch then, and I think about what Jurgen and our sporting director, Michael Edwards, and our scouting staff and our statistics and science staff are able to do in 48 short months is completely revitalize the squad. But I think equally importantly, what we've been able to do as a football club is what Jurgen said at that time. He's going to turn doubters into believers. And I think that ownership back there in Boston, Fenway Sports Group, my bosses truly believed that we had the right man for the job. They had the patience to give him the resources and the time because it was not instant magic. But I think there's something that we saw at that time with Jurgen, and you see it now, obviously, this sense of charismatic energy, belief in his players, belief in the city, belief in the fans, and they get him and he gets them. There's a famous Shankly quote, "I'm perfect for Liverpool, and Liverpool is perfect for me." And I think you can say the same about Jurgen Klopp.
Peter, I'm a football man rather than a business, any intellect there. So this is new territory for me in many ways. And I think I speak for a lot of football fans, where they look at an institution, or look at a sporting entity, and, you know, you wonder, as a long-time suffering Newcastle United fan, why can't we get it right? You look at the NFL, the likes of the Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, the Chargers. You spent time here in the United States. Can you give us some sort of side view on what it takes to make a situation infinitely better, as you guys have done with the Fenway Group?
I think, Ray, it all has to come together on the pitch, off the pitch, fan engagement, community engagement, getting the belief. And Liverpool, as you know, is a very unique city, and its people are unique. And I'm a Scouser born and bred, but as you point out, you know, I've lived in America, and I only came back 3 years ago and lived in America 38 years. So I've seen all those franchises, the NFL teams, the amount of work. I always feel sorry for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, I lived through them disappearing and then re-emerging again. And, you know, for us at Liverpool, when everything comes together well, and you know this, it comes together incredibly well. Whether it was Shankly, whether it was Bob Paisley, whether ultimately Kenny coming back during those days, even Gerard Houllier, wonderful man, won the treble here, and everybody forgets about that. We've won 3 trophies in a few months. When it all comes together on the pitch, off the pitch, with the fans, on the Kop, at the Shankly Gates, walking up Walton Breck Road, everything comes together brilliantly. And the global fan base that we have, that is such a superb part of who we are, is generational, right? They're dads from the 70s and 80s. They watched Kenny, they watched Rushy, they watched John Barnes, they watched Peter Beardsley, they watched Ray Clements in goal. And they've handed that love of this football club down from generation to generation. And I think we're in a unique situation that when we bring it all together, nobody in football, and no disrespect to any other football clubs, nobody brings it together better. We have this saying now, this means more. And you combine all of that with the tragedy this football club has been through as well, and the ethics of the people of Liverpool, and what football means to the people of Liverpool. One of the stories I tell, one of the greatest honors of my life, was being on the parade bus last summer, and 4 hours driving through the streets of Liverpool and looking down at these people. And you go through some of the most impoverished postcodes in the UK, Kensington, Islington, Tobruk, these suburbs of Liverpool. And you look down at these people and they're looking up at you, and the affinity they have with Liverpool Football Club, for all intents and purposes, is the biggest affinity they have in their lives. You know, unemployment rife, can't put food on the table, but they're Reds. And when Jurgen Klopp showed them that European trophy, it was as if they had won it with him. And so I think it answers your question. We're so blessed with the history of what this football club's about. And then when it comes together, both on the pitch and off the pitch, and the way we're organized as a modern football club now, with a manager, a sporting director, my job is to run the business of the club, commercial directors, because we need to drive our revenue, because we're a self-sustaining football club as a business model. That has all come together because of Fenway Sports Group. Our reliance on data and science, and rather than gut feel, is something, particularly when you have a German manager, is something that has benefited us enormously. So I think we're very fortunate to have the platform. We haven't always got it right, to your point, over the last few years. I'd like to think we're getting it right now.
Magic.
Yeah, and right you have. I've said this since the beginning when Fenway Sports Group took over. I said that it's one of the best run clubs in the world, the Boston Red Sox. And I said on this show, well, not on this podcast, but on our football show, I said, this is going to be, they're going to get it right.
You did.
This is one of the groups that is going to make this club an underachieving club, even though I'm a Milan fan and I suffered in 2005. But it was underachieving for the stature of Liverpool. And I said, these guys are going to get it right. And the first couple of years, of course, everyone makes mistakes, right? But what I wanted to hear about two people in particular. Well, John Henry and Tom Werner, put them as one, and Mike Edwards. I'm not sure people know enough about these characters. I certainly don't. I certainly don't. I sit here in awe and hope that my club can get it right. But I've said to everyone, this is the best run club in the world, and probably the best fans in the world. There's at least some of the best fans, because there's so many great clubs that have great fans. But to bring it all together, I got to believe it starts at the top. And I wanted to know about these three characters, if you will, what they mean to the club.
Well, John, famously, as you know, Charlie, Liverpool was brought to his attention, and 60 days later, Fenway Sports Group, or New England Sports Ventures, it was at that time, owned the club. You remember the rather difficult period prior to that of the other American owners who, basically made all of the missteps that hopefully we've learned the lessons by, and they're still angry and bitter, but got run out of town by the supporters you talk about, and the opportunity for Fenway to come in, and as somebody who lived in Boston in my Reebok days in the 90s and fully familiar with the Red Sox and a 30-year Boston Red Sox fan right here, when I heard as a fan, this is way before I came on board as CEO, that John Henry and Tom Werner, I wasn't aware of Mike, who's my boss at that time, was coming in to acquire the club, that potentially acquire the club, I had the same feeling as you, albeit again as a fan. These are folks that took the curse of the Bambino in an 86-year drought and figured out, how to maintain Fenway Park in its current position. Because when I was living in Boston, there was a movement to knock it down because of this desire to keep up with the New York Yankees, and simply having this wonderful little ballpark, but 20,000 seats less than Yankee Stadium just wasn't going to drive the revenue that was required. But John, as he famously did when he walked into Anfield, when John walked into Anfield, looked around, because if you recall, the previous owners were going to knock Anfield down and build a new stadium in Stanley Park. He walked in there and looked around and said, why would we ever leave here? Very similar to what he did with Fenway. So what you have in John Henry, and just a little anecdote, when I first started to really get, way before he tapped me on the shoulder to see whether I would take this role, I got to know him pretty well. Going back in Boston, and remember meeting with him one day, and he was building a house to his house that he now lives in, and was living in one of the hotels in Boston in the Back Bay. And he said, come on up and let's have a chat. And he was going through there was a stack of DVDs at that time on the TV, and he was watching Liverpool in the early 70s in black and white. It was very clear to me he was going to go through every single game of every year of every decade, and in the way that John does, absorbing the history, absorbing the data. And I said to him, don't worry, it's in color in a few years. You can actually watch it in color. It's still in black and white. But that's what you have with the John Henry. You have somebody that's unbelievable. We all know his history, unbelievably analytical, and that he wanted to disrupt the way sports were, as he did in baseball, with the use of data and analytics and the infamous, if you will, Moneyball model. Yeah. But as applied science and data to the way that we run our football club, and it's our job, my job, to continue to keep that going here, and to what we like to think, not necessarily revolutionize, because so many football clubs now use data and science to analyze players and the best potential player for a particular situation. But that's who John is. Tom adds that creative flair, one of the most successful television producers in American TV history. But Tom has a real passion and a love both for baseball, and has grown into a massively well-educated Liverpool fan. I adore my time with Tom Werner, because he's got that creative passion and comes to as many games as he possibly can. Mike Gordon, my boss, adds to, that's the trio, and Mike, his background is fidelity and analytics is where Mike is his sweet spot, and the
brilliant guy, by the way, brilliant
super guy. Yeah, and the placement of Michael Edwards and the hiring of the people in and around our PhDs and our data scientists that look at massive amounts of data for thousands of players around the world, that comes together, if you will, over there as a dream team. And my job is to make sure that the business of football provides them with the resources that they need to be successful. As simple as that.
In January 2018, Jurgen Klopp was entering his third year as manager. Still hadn't won anything. Still fighting for fourth place to get back into the Champions League. The previous summer, you pulled out of a transfer to sign Virgil van Dijk because there'd been some backdoor attempts to sign him, and it was thought better to pull out. In January 2018, you paid £75 million for this player, and everybody, the whole world said, "Yeah, he's a good centre-back, but 75 million, that's just ridiculous." He then became the symbol, if you like, for the best transfer nous in the business, that you went and signed this guy. He was the guy who changed. The following summer, you spent £62.5 million on Alisson Becker, breaking the world record for a goalkeeper that had gone the previous year, Manchester City, for Ederson, which was only 34 million. I mean, massively breaking it. What were the discussions that went on at Liverpool Football Club to make these massive investments? How did they come about?
And the sales as well, Neil. I think, the sales that...
Coutinho to fund it.
Right.
Yeah, look, this is all down to Michael Edwards, to Mike Gordon, that had the courage, in Virgil's case, to continue to have the conversations with Southampton. Nothing to do with me. I am very much, as I say, the business end of it. Michael pursued Virgil, and Mike Gordon supported him, because you're right, that was a lot of money at the time. And as you recall, and I'm looking at it as much in my role as well as a Liverpool fan, is that kind of money for a defender. He's not, although he does score goals, he's not going to score the goals, was unheard of. The same with Alisson in the summer. But what you've built there, and you know this, is the spine of a football club that I go back to Tommy Lawrence and Ron Yates as that, we're all going to show our age, but Shankly always talked about, the Liverpool way was like, all right, you've got your goalkeeper, you've got your centre back, you need your centre forward. In those days, it was Ian St. John, and it became, Kevin Keegan or John Toshak. It's the way that the club has always moved. And interestingly, I've been able to go to the past couple of games now in my role as CEO. Obviously, no crowd, so you hear everything. And just on Virgil, I mean, I played at a decent level, but and it was always chatty. I have never witnessed a professional footballer that, from the moment the first whistle goes to the moment that the final whistle goes, commentates on everything. And that booming baritone Dutch voice, no matter where the ball is, Virgil is controlling everything. And it is startling for me to sit there as that voice echoes around the stadium, because not only do you get the best defender in the world, you get a leader of men out there that everybody around him is better as a result. And so the multiplier effect of having the comfort of what I believe, again, as a Liverpool fan, the world's best goalkeeper there, not spectacular, but very rarely makes a mistake, comforted by the fact that in front of him is the world's best defender, and then the front three, arguably the world's best front three. Down the flanks, you've got what most people would say are the best two fullbacks in the world, in Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. It all comes together. And you can thank our sporting director and our manager and our ownership for having the long-term vision to see all those pieces in that jigsaw puzzle come together.
But did no discussion ever go on that said, actually, this is too much?
Not that I'm aware of. I think what happens, and again, not my job, I think what happens is with both Michael and Jurgen and Mike, once they decide that this is our guy and this is how he fits and this is what our data would tell us as regards the impact he's going to have long-term on this team, then obviously you go for it. And that's what they did. Again, nothing to do with me.
Well, you're being very
magnanimous.
humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but you know, look, it takes a lot of people, and a CEO runs the company, which is you know, let's be honest, is very, very important. It's the most important thing, because in the end, there has to be someone that directs this. And you know, Sir Alex Ferguson was famously one day. A mutual friend, Mike Moritz, who wrote his book on leadership, took him to see a practice, I guess it is, when the orchestra is there, and they were talking to the maestro, you know, and Sir Alex was watching this as they were performing, and he said, you know, that's exactly what I do. That's my job, is to get these guys to play together. And yeah, I mean, talk about Jurgen Klopp, what you see as this guy, this figure that's beloved. I mean, I don't know of any manager in the world ever is this beloved.
I can tell you what you see is what you get. There's no facade there. And I've had the honor to travel all around the world with him and sit with him, you know, and be with him for hours on planes and in hotels, to watch him firsthand, how he managed the players. You know, I'll start with this. There's nothing better than a Jurgen Klopp hug. And you know,
You haven't been hugged by me in a while, have you, Peter?
No, I kind of melted you, Charlie, a little bit deeper. But from the perspective of what Jurgen does is man management at a world-class level. He's tough when he needs to be, and I've seen that on many occasions. But his players will go to the wall for him. And you're dealing with, you can imagine what you're dealing with such a diverse, talented group of people. To your point, the conductor needs to come together when it's showtime and manage them. And look, Jurgen, as you see on the sidelines, is animated. He's kicking every ball himself. He is moving every player up and down. He's not one to sit in the dugout, as you well know. He's not a shirt and tie guy, as you well know. This is your 12th man there that is pulling all of those strings, conducting the violins and the trombones and the guitars and everything else that is there. To your point on the orchestra, but from a management perspective, as well as who he is to our fans, to the outside world, football's important to him, very important to him. But as you've heard in so many of his interviews, he can see the bigger picture of life. And I think you see that in everything you do. One of the things, and just I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling this story, he was we were on a plane ride, we were going to a away game somewhere, and I sit opposite him, and he had his headphones in, and he clearly engaged in something, listening for about an hour. And I said, what are you listening to? He said, well, I listen to podcasts. On what? And I'm thinking, you know, football, maybe listening to Sirius FC 157. I don't know. He said, no, I'm going through 14th century European history.
Oh.
And he said, I'm actually in some Spanish period right now, understanding the period from 1350 or something. Not what your average football manager typically listens to, but that's Jurgen. This is somebody that you know we all adore, and brings to us, back to my original quote from Shankly, is perfect for Liverpool, because he understands the city in which he's in. He understands what football means to them, but he does have this balance about life as well. And when he speaks about things, and you've heard him publicly speak from everything to Brexit, and you know him, to where we are, and to Black Lives Matter and the current climate, Jurgen can speak eloquently, articulately, and from an informed base on that. And that's what I think sometimes sets him apart from you, quote unquote, average football manager.
Well, I want to talk to you about, you're the orchestra leader when it comes to the business part of it. And all this stuff is great, but we know in this world, financial world, it's impossible to do these great things the club has done without the financial resources. And you said before, you are a self-sustaining club.
Yeah.
You know, you as the orchestra leader of the business, give us a little insight in how you've been able to grow this the revenue side of this business, and how you've been able to structure it internally, where it used to be a club that was, as I said before, never really reaching its potential, and now seems to be, what did they say in American football, kicking the coverage or something like that.
Yeah, kicked your coverage, yeah. When I arrived, one of the things I assumed they hired me for was to bring Silicon Valley type corporate experience to provide leadership that is critical when you've got, in my case, 850 people who do not kick a ball for Liverpool Football Club, but make football happen and make it happen brilliantly. Since I've been here, we have restructured the entire organization. We have invested millions of pounds in the digitization of our business. And we have, and I coined a phrase when I arrived because it was very clear to me that this is a football club with a massive, massive local heart, but with this unbelievable global pulse. So when we talk in terms of what we do it with local heart, but with a global pulse. And so reaching out to hundreds of millions of fans around the world, we've done through the rebuilding of our marketing team. The content we put out, you all see it, is absolutely superb, and it's emotional, and it tugs at the "this means more" element of who we are. As I've traveled the world the last 3 years, I go and stop wherever I am, and I go see our official Liverpool supporters club, whether it's most recently Cape Town, Singapore, Bangkok, Munich, Madrid, Sydney, all of these places, because I believe in fan engagement. And one of the things that I think we've done is what people will tell you is the fans and the club have never been so close with each other. A lot of mending of fences had to happen from previous ownership. And as you know, this is a great city and has great supporters clubs that are actually unions. Spirit of Shankly is an organization that was mobilized to change ownership and has existed ever since. And we liaise with them on any kind of a fan issue, that because they represent the voice of our fans who, and again, as we always are fond of saying, football without fans is nothing. So from the building of the inside, invisible to everybody, but building the club to be a 21st century, basically, operation that is focused on reaching out to everybody in the world and engaging with them, driving our revenue. One of the things, Billy Hogan very well, one of the things we've done well is move to massive global engagement with partners, Standard Chartered, AXA. We're about a month away, exactly a month away today, from Nike being the new manufacturer of our kit and our gear. And we believe that platform will allow us to continue to build on the base that we've built. And then, it's a question of every penny we typically get, we spend on the pitch. And we believe it's this self-fulfilling cycle. It's a virtuous cycle. Make money, spend money. We keep winning. Big sponsors want to be a part of us. Great partners want to engage with us. And as we keep winning, more partners come. And it's a virtuous cycle that I'm very used to in my previous life that we're building. And going back to Neil and the questions about Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker, that's the investment you make to win. And when you win, and you win in the way that we play, where even the most begrudging neutrals will say, I love watching Liverpool play. And it's as simple as that. And so from that perspective, you're building a fan base that's even more deeper engaged. And at the same time, you need to be on the streets. I'm wearing, I know this is radio, but I'm wearing a Champions t-shirt, not to rub it in anybody's face, but I've just come from my shift at the food banks. This is a city that still needs help. And this is a city that lives and dies by its football clubs, both ourselves and the blue side of Stanley Park. And particularly during this crisis, we have focused our attentions with so many volunteer hours of our teams that haven't been necessarily fully engaged as we've shut down somewhat. But what we moved to was encouraging our staff to volunteer. What do we need here? We need, people can't put food on their tables, but social isolation, education, and trying to help, because we have this massive platform. When somebody walks into a room with this liver bird on their chest, kids pay attention. And so we utilize that as best we can. So again, my shift this afternoon was packing crates at a local Liverpool food bank and came back here to do this interview. But that's what this football club is all about, always has been about, and always will be about.
One thing that's changed massively is the match day experience for fans going to the Anfield. Massively. I mean, it was only a few years ago that if you go back to when Liverpool were the most successful team in Europe, going to Anfield was simply going to this ground where there was this incredible atmosphere and it was impossible to win there. And then all of a sudden, come the 1990s and the early 2000s, it was this really old-fashioned ground that was small, around the dressing room area. It was really run down, and outside there was just nothing going on. Now, if you go there, especially since the main stand has been rebuilt, there's this extraordinary social event going on before kickoff with a stage and with bands and local musicians. The store has been rebuilt and it's massive. There's a fan part around the back where actually people might be shocked to learn that fans, both home fans and away fans, mingle. And it's just a completely different experience to what it was 3 years ago. It feels like a huge club. How big a body of work was that to get it like that?
So I'm glad you noticed, and one of the things we're most proud of, Neil, is that for the 4th year in a row, the Premier League has said to Anfield, you are the Visit Football best stadium in the Premier League, 4 years in a row. And that's testament to exactly what you've just said. What we tried to do is maintain that local flair, as you know, and if American listeners have never been to I'm sure if they've never been to Anfield, never been to a stadium like this, where you know, Mrs. Jones's house opens up onto the cop, which is at the back of the goal by, 20 yards, and you're in this residential area. But you're exactly right. What I've always wanted to do, and what my team does brilliantly, is create a kind of more American feel. And by that I mean, get there early, enjoy the atmosphere, have your pint or your pie or your taco or your burrito, because we serve it all now in Paisley Square. You're right. We put on a music stage, so there's live acts. Our store is a 41,000 square foot store that services all of our fans coming in. At the back, that fan zone behind Anfield Road, and I'm glad you noticed it, away fans, because that's the away end. The away fans and home fans gather there. Our partner Carlsberg has been brilliant, and the kids play. There's five-a-side football going on, and you're right. It's completely different. When I was a kid and was walking up Walton Breck Road and going to the boys' pen behind the cop, completely different. But this is what we tried to do. More recently, I spearheaded a movement to get a statue built for Bob Paisley, because for me, Paisley, as much as we laud and revere Bill Shankly, Paisley was the most successful manager.
Right.
And so I got our partner Untitled Chapter, who is our jersey sponsor, to work with me. I found a sculptor. I worked with the Paisley family. And in fact, if you've not seen the statue, it's Bob Paisley carrying Emlyn Hughes on his back, which to me is a visual I've always had as a Liverpool fan and embodies what Liverpool is all about. So when you go now, because this is recent, Neil, when you go to the store, you will now see this 8-foot statue of Bob Paisley as in his days of a trainer. And this is a man that was with the club 40 plus years, carrying Emlyn Hughes, the team captain, on his back to clean him up and get him back on the pitch from a game against Spurs in April of 1968. And so all of that, and of course the Shankly statue, I want people to go 2-3 hours before kickoff and do the tour around the stadium, pay their respects at the Hillsborough Memorial. Go find my dad's little stone is there on 96th Avenue. Go have a pint, go have a Carlsberg in the fan zone and talk to the away fans. And then when the time is right, you're into the stadium and you're in one of the greatest stadiums in the world of football.
Well, Peter Moore, CEO, Liverpool Football Club. I am like, I'm a fan.
All are.
I have to say this to you. This is coming from a diehard Yankee and AC Milan fan. No one does it better than you guys, really. Hats off to the whole Liverpool family. just an incredible organization, and you're our maestro. Thank you so much, Peter.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Great chatting with you all. Take care.
Thanks again, Peter.
All right. Thanks.
Cheers.
I can't tell you how happy I am to be joined by Ian Rush. May I call you Rushy?
You can.
Okay, that's good. That's beautiful. I know I could. I just wanted to say that. Like, you know, anyway, I was just saying to him, Ray, that this guy's getting more and more handsome every time I see him. And you former footballers have a way about you that the chicks still dig you even when you're no longer playing, huh? So anyway, Ian, look, I just wanted to welcome you to the podcast, the ICC Hat Trick, presented by the ICC. And it's been a long time coming. And in your day, it was a normal thing to win the league and the Champions League, really. And now, 30 years later, how do you feel Liverpool finally winning the EPL?
It's absolutely amazing. You know, if you asked me 30 years ago, well, it'd be 30 years since Liverpool won the league, I'd most probably just laugh at you, you know, because we'd taken it for granted. But the longer it's gone on, the harder it's been to win. And we've had some great teams, you know, some great managers who've tried and failed. So it's always nice to get it over the line. And, you know, it's great to be back in the top of the league.
Can I dive in and ask you about the centre forward, your old position, because Robert Firmino isn't your natural centre forward. He's turned himself into one, and isn't your traditional one. He's much more mobile, fluid. He's very different, and he's arguably the best centre forward in the world right now.
Yes, I would say so. I think he'd be the first name on Klopp's sheet. If you look at it, I put it that way. You know, he doesn't score as many goals as Salah, you know, or Mane, but what he does is work rate, what he puts in. And people forget he's very, very skillful as well. And I think, looking back, I think he's only scored one goal at Anfield, but he scored so many away from Anfield, and they've been winning goals as well. So I'd have to say he's right up there. I think the front three are absolutely fantastic. But I think Firmino, he's the one that with the work rate, and he always comes up with the good when it's needed.
And isn't it the culmination of the Liverpool way, Ian? When you look at that forward line, that trident, how elusive they are, how quicksilver they are, and sharing the load on the back of a midfield that, with all due respect, doesn't seem to be the most inventive and creative, and yet the manner in which Liverpool have improved as a team, as an entity, it's reminiscent of the great Liverpool teams that you played in, where the structure of the whole club, literally the whole club, after we talked to Peter Moore yesterday, just leads to that point in front. And it's an amazing set of circumstances that Liverpool have. Now, having said all of that, how are they going to maintain it when these other clubs are hungry for revenge, and we know that they'll be looking to gun you guys down?
Well, I look at it really, maybe I look about, say, 2 years ago when Liverpool got to the Champions League final and they lost. And in fairness, they didn't deserve to get there, but they got to the Champions League final, they got beat. And Klopp has said, listen, we must up our game here. So you got last year, they win the Champions League. They get 97 points and still don't win the league. So Klopp said, we need to up our game again. So I think this year, they've upped the game even more. I think, and they've been absolutely fantastic. But I think it's all the team spirit within the club. And that's not just the squad, but that's the people behind the scenes as well. You know, we always remember Bob Paisley, you know, he used to come in and said, always go and say hello to Ada and May, the tea ladies, because you'll need them at some time. And they love it when you go and say, hello, May, hello, Ada. You know, they love all that. And this is exactly the same. And that reverts back to the fans. But to have that, you need a leader. Bob Paisley was a leader there. Jurgen Klopp is a leader now. When I seen him on that pitch, you know, on the sidelines, you know, if the crowd's dead, he'd get up and get the crowd going. Then he'd say to the players, the crowd are going, you need to get going. Then the players get going, and it all reacts. And I think you need a leader, and Jurgen Klopp is that leader.
And what's it about Jurgen? Is it his tactics, his authenticity, his smile, what is it about the guy that makes him beloved? I mean, he's a guy that I haven't heard one person say something bad about this guy, honestly. And I hear people say bad things about everyone, except Ray Hudson and you, of course, Ian. But go ahead.
No, I just think he's, before the COVID, every time you met Jurgen, he'd give you a big hug. And what you do after that, you want to go and give someone else a big hug. And I think now it's the smile. And I think what he generates is positive energy. That's what he does all the time. And you're right there. Even supporters, Manchester United supporters, Everton supporters, they say, "Oh, we like Jurgen Klopp," and that doesn't happen much. And that's how good Jurgen is. But what I'd have to say, he's a very good tactician as well. It's not just this; he's a great manager. But I think his tactics, if he needs changing after 10 or 15 minutes, Jurgen will do that on the pitch, and that's the difference he is. I think, and he's so good with his coaching staff as well. So I think that's what makes him that little bit special.
Rookie spoke about the midfield not being the most inventive. One of their tasks probably is to cover for the two most inventive fullbacks in the league, and along with the Bayern Munich fullbacks, the two most inventive fullbacks in the world. They are unbelievable physically, Trent Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson, because especially Andy Robertson, he never seems to get caught out. Yet he's up in the opposition penalty area or attacking third more than the midfielders. How good are they? How do they do it? Have you seen anything quite that advanced athletically before?
Well, I think you're right there. I think
and technically.
Yeah, I think they're the best fullbacks in the world at the moment. And I think Andy, he's improved. I think Trent's always had it in him. And I think Trent, with his confidence and everything, has managed to get up and down the pitch. Andy, when he first come, really, he was a defender. And he was a very good defender. But then he suddenly got forward and he gets forward. And I think he's seen Trent doing that. So he thinks, if he can do it, I can do it. And I think they're both absolutely fantastic. And I think Liverpool, they're young kids as well. Well, not kids, like they're young men. And I think these can get better with experience. And you can see they're both loving it. The crowd love the both of them. The last time I seen two players like that, and I won't say they wouldn't get as athletic as good as them, but we had Phil Neal at Liverpool at right back. We had Alan Kennedy left back. You look how many goals they scored a season. Phil Neal will get you 7, 8, 10 goals a season. So would Alan Kennedy. And then they were the full-backs. But you need the midfield, the engine in midfield to keep them going. And I think you're right there. I think when you look at the midfield, I think the amount of work that they put in goes very much unnoticed.
And I want to turn to Van Dijk. I mean, he is, I often joke with Jimmy Pilata. I tell him that by giving him Salah and Alisson, you've made them the best club in the world. They should give you that MBE, whatever the hell you have over there, but all kidding aside, I mean, how important is Van Dijk, and who does he remind you of from your era on your Liverpool team? That sort of is that rock, is that, I guess the guy everyone looks at.
I think he's fantastic. I think when you see these players like Ronaldo, Messi getting Player of the Year and all that, I genuinely believe Van Dijk should have had it last year. I thought he's fantastic. He was brilliant. And you're right about Alisson as well. We paid a lot of money for him, but it's well worth it. But I think what Van Dijk is, he's a good organiser and he's a good leader. And when you look at the other three, like you look at, say, Gomez, then you got Andy Robertson and you got Trent. These are young guys. And I think they're looking up to Van Dijk to say the organisation and the leadership. And they're all doing that. But you take Van Dijk out and put, say, Matip in, Liverpool don't seem to be the same team, even though they're good players. And that's simply because Van Dijk is organising the thing. They say, you stay there, you go now. And that's what a leader does. And Van Dijk does that. And looking at him, I think he reminds me, anyway, of when he played there, was Alan Hansen. Alan Hansen never tackled anyone. He was so skillful on the ball, and he never tackled anyone because he positioned himself that well, he didn't have to. And I can see Van Dijk, no one outpaces him because he's in that right position at the right time. And I think he reminds me very much of Alan Hansen.
Ian, touch on a bit of a sore subject here in the exit out of the Champions League against an Atletico Madrid team that beat Liverpool both in Spain and in England at the end. It seemed that Liverpool were in a funny state going into that game in many ways. I mean, what's your overall feeling on the sad exit for Liverpool at the hands of a ruthless Atletico Madrid, especially in that second leg? Yeah,
I think Liverpool may be vulnerable to teams who don't attack. I think when you look at it, look at Ancelotti with Napoli when they came. You look at that,
that's right. Yeah.
They played not to win. I think Atletico, they played not to lose. And I think that's the difference. That's what Liverpool have got to learn, especially in Europe, because more and more teams will come and do that now. So they must learn to overcome that. But in the end, you've got to give Atletico the credit they deserve. We were in front twice, expecting to go through, but they came back, and things like that happened. But at the end of the day, we won the league anyway, so I'm not complaining too much.
For sure.
If I look back to the great Liverpool team of the 70s, some players obviously were bought when they were the finished article. But, I mean, Kevin Keegan and Ray Clements were bought from Scunthorpe. Goodness knows what division they were in at the time.
And Alan Kenny was bought from Newcastle. You could throw that in.
In the 80s, I mean, you came from Chester, Stevie Nicol from Ayr, Alan Hansen from Partick. It wasn't all by the ready-made article. And I look now, and it's similar. And obviously Robertson came from Hull when they just got relegated. Van Dijk and Mane from Southampton. And as Charlie said, nobody thought Salah was the player that he's turned into at Liverpool. Although, to be fair, he didn't turn into it a year or 2 years after arriving. He turned into it on the flipping day he arrived. How good has the recruitment been beyond the obvious? And how brilliant have Salah, failed at Chelsea, ex-Fiorentina and Roma, and Mane, ex-Southampton, been?
Oh, they've been absolutely incredible. I think the recruitment there is first class. And also, you've got to give the owners a bit of credit here. Because, when Klopp first come to the club, he said, it'll be 5 years when I win the league. And we all thought, we hope you're right, but a lot of other managers said that and not done that.
Yeah.
A lot of managers have been sacked after a year or two. But I think the owners have given Klopp that chance to do that. And with the recruitment, I think they've done absolutely fantastic. And you're right there, he said, not often does you come from a lower club to do that. I think when Liverpool won the league, what I'll say is, you say, do you buy anyone? They used to always buy an experienced one and a younger one. That's what they used to do. But I think you can take the younger ones out of it now because they're coming through the academy. We've got so many good youngsters coming through the academy. I think them days are gone. The academy are doing so good of a job there. But they're always looking to get an experienced one to keep you on your toes. Because that's what Liverpool used to always do, that when they won, they'd buy one or two more to keep you on your toes. The problem is now, if Liverpool do buy someone, first of all, who's it going to be, what position, and if they're still paying 80, 100 million, are they going to get into the side? That's a big thing. So if you're going to pay 100 million for someone, they'll want to be an automatic in the side. And at the moment, I don't think anyone can do that.
Well, that's what used to happen, isn't it? Every year under Paisley and from there on, it was like one player was bought and they wouldn't play. They wouldn't start the following season. They'd have to adapt and fight their way into the team.
Yes, that is the Liverpool mentality. You can't just come in here and walk into the side, because these players have won the league. So you've got to make your way into them, and they've got to earn the right to do that.
Well, to be fair, that's what Robertson, he didn't start in the team, and Fabinho took 3, 4, 5 months to get in the team.
Yeah, you're right, and it takes time to adapt, especially for the foreign players. Sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. It can take him a year. Look at Lucas when he first come to Liverpool. Now, his first 2 years, everyone said, "Oh, is he a Brazilian?" He's sure he's a Brazilian, but no, he worked hard. He got himself fitter. He knew what it needed for the English game. It's completely different to the European game in English. It's much faster. It's more forceful. And then Lucas adapted to that, and he was at Liverpool for 10 years. And that's what you've got to earn the right to do that. And I think whoever comes, if anyone comes to Liverpool, they've got to earn the right to play for Liverpool Football Club.
And do you think where do you think they will bring in a reinforcement or two? Or are there kids coming through that they don't even need to do it this year?
Well, maybe so. I think there's a load of kids coming through. When you look at when Liverpool beat Everton in the FA Cup, they were full of kids.
Yeah.
So there is some good kids coming through. So you look at
why are you smiling so hard when you say a bunch of kids beat Everton in the FA Cup?
Well, I was going to say Liverpool reserves, but it wasn't quite that. But no, I just think there's some talent there that the youngsters coming through, and they've got to earn the right. First of all, to train out. Obviously, now that'll soon be gone, but to train with the first team and just training with the first team. They'll know what to expect if they actually go and make their debuts and things like that. But I'm really excited about the youngsters at Liverpool. But again, what I look at is next year, if you get 1 or 2 injuries, what's going to fill the gap? And at the moment, you got the front three and you got a Riggy can cover for that. But if you get 1 or 2 injuries, what we're going to have we got the strength to do? I personally, I think, maybe biased, but I think we have. But I think it would be nice if we did get someone in. If we don't, I think Klopp is very, very happy with his squad. If he doesn't get anyone in, he'll be very, very happy with his squad. And but we'll have to wait and see.
And who do you think? I'm sorry, Ray. I just wanted to follow up with that. Who do you think will be the biggest competition in the next? Let's just go with next year in the league.
In the Premier League.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, if you were looking at Manchester City, you say, listen, you've been so successful over the last 3 or 4 years. What's happening? I think Manchester City will have to up the game. I think Manchester United will have to up the game. I think Chelsea in the one, Tottenham. Then you look at Arsenal. I think they'll all. The problem Liverpool may have next season is that everyone wants to beat them. Mm-hmm. I thought everyone wants to beat Manchester City this season, and I think next season everyone will want to beat Liverpool because they know how good they are. They've set the standard. You look in the 80s. Liverpool set the standard. The 90s, Manchester United. Then Chelsea had a spell. Manchester City had a spell. So when all these are at the top of the game, if you're the opposition, you say, listen, if you're going to be successful, you need to beat this lot. And that's what I think that Liverpool are now at the top. So look, when Guardiola, when they play Liverpool, they'll be saying to the Liverpool players, Man City players, listen, you need to up your game because these are the best. And that's what it comes with. And I think it's going to be very, very hard next year. I'm looking forward to it next year, the Premier League, because I don't think it'll be such a big of a gap next year, put it that way.
Yeah, and just leading on from that nice segue, Ian, this Liverpool side just moonwalking away from the rest. And still games to be played. A wonderful game on display today. It should be a great advertisement for both clubs. A tremendous tug-of-war match that'll be. More like a sword fight, I think it'll be. But do you see Liverpool easing off at all? Or is this going to be like an exclamation point? Every game, an exclamation point. That's how much we are better and more dominant over everybody. And this was the season, in a way, because of the COVID outbreak and the whole meltdown of society in many ways, hell. It's a chance for Liverpool to take away whatever, ridiculous excuse or asterisk or whatever you want to call it, away from this glorious team. Do you see them just keeping on getting 3 points, like as if every game now counts as another exclamation point of what Liverpool stands for? Or is it natural for players now with the championship in the bag to mentally ease off?
Yeah, I think it's natural to ease off. I remember once when we won the league with 5 games to go, and I think we drew 3 and lost 2. Well, after we won the league, because I think it was the management then that said your job at the start of the season is to win the league. So once you won the league, then I think the management relaxed and everything. Well, I think times have changed. I think this team will go out there focused, wanting to break records, and I think it's completely different from when we played. And I think they'll be going out to do that. I think they'll be so focused because this Liverpool team has got to be right up there with the best because they're breaking records. It's as simple as that. The facts are there. They're breaking records. They're there. And to break records at Liverpool is no mean feat, by the way, because so many great teams in the past. But if this team can beat Manchester City's record of 100 points, that's another record for history and all that. And these players are focused on doing that. And I think the manager is as well. So I think they'll be going out to try and break every record while they can in this year.
I wanted to ask
go ahead.
2 unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to talk about 2 unsung heroes. Jordan Henderson, the captain, and the old man, James Milner, who he'd won some leagues at Manchester City without necessarily playing that regularly at that stage, which is why he left at the end of his contract. And at Liverpool, he's become such a critical player, or maybe a critical personality, I'm not sure which, to the squad.
Yeah, I think we go with Milner first. I think when he first come, you're thinking, was he going to get a regular game for Liverpool? When you look at him now, he's so fit anyway, but he's played in different positions, and that's what you have to look at. He's been, especially on the left back situation, where before Robinson and that was injured or wasn't playing regular. Milner was asked to play at left back. He's asked to play at right back. He's asked to be midfield, and I think he's so versatile, and he's been absolutely fantastic for me. But I think he's passing on his experience as well now. He was most probably, he was the only one who's actually won a league. So everyone else didn't really know what it was like to win a league. And playing the games coming up to win the league, I think he'd be passing on his experience. But I think he's been great because he's played in different positions. He's like having 3 or 4 players in the side, and he never gives the ball away. That's one thing. He does not give the ball away. And he's learned, when you look playing at left back, he's getting in there. He's kicking with his left foot and everything when need to be. And I think he's been fantastic. And the other one, Jordan Henderson, in a way, he's most probably had the hardest problem replacing Steven Gerrard as captain. And to do that, because Gerrard was one hell of a player, put it that way, and the fans loved him and still love Steven Gerrard. But I think it was for Jordan to come in and and take over from Stevie was hard. But what he's done, he was determined to do that, and he works harder than anyone else on the pitch. He puts it in and everything, and he comes up with the vital goals when needed. And he's another one. He organised the midfield, and by doing that, I think you're right there. They are the 2 most unsung heroes because that's what they've had to do, and they've actually done it.
Does he deserve Player of the Year, Henderson, in the league?
Well, I think there could be 3 or 4, and they're all Liverpool players. If you ask me, I think Mane's been fantastic this year. Van Dijk is just Van Dijk. Alisson has just been Alisson. But I think Mane is. I think he has been really, really good. He's come on. I think when you look at Salah a couple of years ago when he got 43 goals, he was untouchable. And I think I think Mane this year has been there. But again, you got Firmino. He goes unnoticed, but he's incredible. I think Henderson he's got every chance, and he's every right for people to put him as Player of the Year.
I have one more question for you, and obviously with the pandemic, no one's able to celebrate as they wanted to. You're in Portugal today, as you pointed out to us. What does it mean to the city of Liverpool? This is a place that you know better than anybody, or as well as anybody. And what does it mean for them to win the Premier League title?
It means everything. I know I was celebrating at home. It's right, and I think first of all, everyone's got to stay safe. That's the important part, and but it means everything. Like I was saying, for me, Liverpool winning the Premier League now is for the younger generation. They must have been fed up with the parents and the grandparents saying, "Oh, I remember when Liverpool won the league." These young generation now have seen Liverpool win the league, and hopefully it'll be many, many more times. But this is a time for me. It's for the younger generation, and it means so much to the city of Liverpool. And hopefully, if everyone can stay safe, there will be a time and place for celebrating, but only when the time is right. Of course, you can celebrate at home. You know, that's what it's all about. But the main thing, Liverpool have won the Premier League, and I'm really, really happy for this younger generation.
I've got one last question. What's your favourite Beatles song?
All you need is love. I mean, all you need is love.
Beautiful.
That was so great, Ian Rush. I can't thank you enough for your time, and I know you did this for us, and I owe you, my friend. Let me know what I can do for you any day of the week, and we're there for you. And thank you so much, Rushy.
Yeah, thanks very much. I've enjoyed it anyway. So make sure you stay safe and hope
You
to see
too.
you.
You too, lad.
Cheers.